infinity itself, both in terms of different types of pleasure, as well as there being an asymmetry between pleasure leading my life and somebody's pleasure in interfering with my life. He wouldn't like to put them in the same category. So he was making plurality do a lot of work and trying to stretch at utilitarianism as far as it would go, to take the plurality of concern that moves, rightly, John Rawls, into having a broad view of what the theory of justice needs. Thank you.
I'm Henry Richardson, teaching philosophy at Georgetown, and I want to immediately erase any comparative advantage I may have, because I do teach political philosophy, by using a simile drawn from maximization theory or artificial intelligence, which I really don't know much about. The contrast you develop between transcendental approaches and comparative approaches is a very stark contrast. And when you talk about comparison, it sometimes sounds like an academic exercise, but of course, we want to get somewhere using these comparisons. And the simile I want to bring up is that of hill climbing algorithms. You have these algorithms in maximization across a complex space to climb the hills. And, if we set out to climb the hills from here and just by blindly experimenting, we might be led to, say, the highest point in New Jersey, and we wouldn't have gotten very high. And it might be better to raise our eyes from where we are in our locality and look out at least to, the peaks across the nation. Are there some higher ones that we should be interested in? So should we not at least broaden the set of comparisons to a fairly broad set of possibilities, maybe distant from our actual one, that might include, in the area of justice, include something like a reasonably well-ordered society?
Andy, that's a good question. I wouldn't have expected anything other than that from you. But I think that it's a very foundational question also, because analogies help, and you're using analogy as I am too. And there is this analogy of we are wanting to go somewhere. I'm trying to go from New York to Boston, say. Very important to know where I'm trying to head, even if there may be algorithms that's huge. When I was growing up in the late 50s, 60s, 70s, we spent a whole lot of time doing calculus of variation, Pontryagin principle, namely that knowing where we're trying to get, you said maximization, indeed, Pontryagin principle is called that, and what the algorithms are at each step. And you can't make sense of the step without seeing where you're trying to go. Now, the question is theory of justice like that? Is that the right analogy? Now take another kind of human action, not my trying to get to Boston, but I'm outside and suddenly it starts raining. I don't have a raincoat. Today it's exactly opposite. For some reason I have a raincoat today, where it was needed neither by temperature nor by humidity. But so if somebody said, why did you jump out of the street and go under that go into the covered driveway? And he said, I was trying to get out of the rain. And then he said, yeah, but have you decided where you ultimately want to go? I could say, look, that's an interesting issue, but at the moment I just want to get out of this bloody rain. And it's a purely comparative question. And I think to bring in the transcendental teleological thing here would not be at all a help. Now, my interpretation is, this is a lecture in memory of Mahbub also, I think he was possibly even more impatient than I was on the transcendental question. We have often discussed that. I think ultimately transcendental questions, which I do discuss in the book, but I didn't discuss it here so much, have some value in it, is what my friend Emil Lakatos in LSE used to call heuristics, that it actually helps to sharpen some types of reasoning, which may be accidentally quite useful in something else. It's that kind of connection. I don't think theory of justice is about getting to a perfectly just society. It is about reducing injustices in the world. And it has always been that. And I don't think, and one of the reasons why social choice theory is something which I know that you know about, also, is important, is that the founders of it always saw it that way. Neither Condorcet, and indirectly Smith played a big role in that, were concerned with the question about the perfectly just society. They were concerned about changes. And that's why Condorcet would spend so much time on women's education, on the freeing of the slaves in the revolution, which of course ultimately took his life. It's that focus which I think is the appropriate focus for the theory of justice. I don't think we can resolve this issue completely today. You raised a very important question, namely, isn't the analogy with mountaineering and getting to Everest the right way of thinking about theory of justice? I'm suggesting it isn't. But you and I are going to chat about that more.
Well, I'm actually at this moment where I can demonstrate this theory of justice issue, because we're trying to get Professor Sen to dinner. But I also want a lot of questions to be asked. So if I could I get each of the people to ask the question, and then you could put them all together and answer in a group?
Solava Ibrahim, I'm a doctoral candidate in Cambridge.
Pardon?
Solava, I'm a doctoral candidate in Cambridge.
Oh, yes.
I walk around King's Parade a lot, but
yeah.
My question actually follows on the previous one, and if our aim is to achieve a less or a more just society, and this is not something we would differ on. My question is basically, and you talked in your third point on responsibility and on assessment. My question is basically, whose responsibility do you think primarily is the pursuit of justice? Like, under whose responsibility and whose assessment when we evaluate if a society is just or not? Whose assessment should we actually take into consideration? That's all. Thank you.
Could I get the other two?
Yeah. You didn't say what your name was, I think. Pardon? I didn't get it. Maria. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
My name is Alman Zalecki. I'm here at the New School. And Professor Sen, I was wondering if you could comment on what Mr. Soros has said about the market. I was wondering if you share his positive view of the market, because many on the left, as you know, lay much of the blame for poverty and inequality at the foot of the market. And Mr. Soros himself was careful to say that the market cannot on its own provide for...
Well, he began by attacking market fundamentalism. So I think if he heard the same speech, that's how it began. And then he conceded something.
Right. But so the market serves its purpose in allocating resources, but it can't provide adequately for collective needs without some action from a government, from politics. What I would argue is that the market can't provide very effectively for individual needs either, unless there's some guarantee of access to the market that comes from something like a guaranteed minimum income or the kind of stakeholding that Tom Paine talked about in agrarian justice and so on. So I was just wondering if you could say something about how the market fits into your view of justice.
Good. I'll begin from the end because that's easier. I agree with George Soros' view as he presented it of the market. I have to concede that he had been more successful in the market than I have been. But on the other hand, I'm ready to learn from his success. I think my take on market is that that's a hugely overhyped subject on both sides. Market fundamentalists try to take the view as if it's a huge social institution. There's